Nation.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome to Impact Nation episode 2, where we are looking to gather leaders across the attractions industry to build community and also to support one another's growth. Join me as always. I love that I get to say as always now because we're on to episode 2. And so joining me as always is the fantastic Matt Heller and the formidable Frank. Frank James. So we're so excited to be with you. And this episode, we're taking a look at a powerful topic, and it's introspection. And so we'll be going through several exercises and activities and topics to lead us through this. And so we're going to be jumping into or sorry, not introspection, intentionality. But we're going to be using introspection to look inside ourselves to make sure that we are evaluating how intentional we are in bringing it out to the forefront. And so we will have Matt doing our introspection section where he will lead us through an activity and also a discussion there. We'll do a bit of a deep dive. Then Frank will be leading our innovation section, which is where you will be given an activity that you can take out of this room and lead with your people and put it into practice. And then I'll close us off with our inspiration section where I reveal a surprise quote to Matt and Frank. They haven't heard it before. They may have heard it before, but they don't know what quote I'm bringing to the table today, and we'll get their reactions. And as always, we want to get audience participation as well. So we're very thankful for those of you who have joined us here today for episode 2. So let's jump right in, and we're going to go around the room and just check in with everybody. Matt, Frank, how are you guys doing today?
Doing great. Thank you so much, Nathan, for kicking us off on, as always, episode 2. I love that. We are here for episode 2. We've got some familiar faces in the room as well, so super excited about that. Been a good week for me, and super excited about some friends that are coming in to see us next week. We're very intentionally getting the house ready for that, so putting some intentionality into what we're doing at the house as well. So that's a little about me. Frank, how are you doing?
Good morning, everybody. I am so excited to be here. I had a blast with episode 1, meeting some of you all for the first time and talking through those activities, and my heart was so full. So I'm excited about episode 2 today, and my week is going well. I just got back home. My family had an emergency pop up a couple of weeks ago, and things are so much better. So I'm grateful. I had some time away. It was really nice to see my family, and I'm excited to be back. So I am truly ready to deep dive into intentionality today. It is a topic that is near and dear to my heart. So I'm excited.
Well, thanks so much, guys. And again, I'm Nathan, and you may have noticed I'm wearing my Toronto Blue Jays hat. So this week I'm up in Canada visiting family. I grew up in Canada, but now I live down in Tampa. But it's great to be visiting Canada in the fall, seeing the leaves change color, and participate in a lot of family activities, and really embrace the benefit of working remotely so that I can be with family on these special occasions. So it's great. So the topic today, intentionality, we want to kick it off by talking a little bit first just about that term, intentionality, because it really has been used a lot. And so what do we mean by it? What are we talking about today when we use that term intentionality? And so what we had discussed, the three of us, around that topic is the idea of making sure that things are done on purpose. That we don't just let things happen to us. You know, sometimes that's how life can feel, right? That you're You've heard the term like, I'm at the mercy of my calendar and I just can't seem to get ahead. And I can't seem to, or when I blank, then I can slow down and really work on this. And so the focus, the strategy of a leader, though, needs to be someone who prioritizes the idea of doing things on purpose. So prioritizing the things you want to be done, but then also prioritizing time devoted to those elements. And today we're going to be using a little bit of, Matt's going to lead us off in just 1 second on introspection, because a big part of intentionality in doing something on purpose is being very transparent and introspective with yourself, like knowing what's going on the inside. Am I truly prioritizing things properly? Do I have my priorities straight? Have I identified what I want those priorities to be? And really exploring that so that you can then do it on purpose. And also, it's not just a matter of doing it on purpose where, hey, I know that's my priority, so I just got to get it done, and kind of forcing it through. There's also the element of making sure that we have a plan or that we design a path forward in order to make sure that we bring it to life. So it doesn't just remain a thought that we think, oh, yeah, that is my priority. And somebody from the outside could say, really? Like, I don't really see it in action.
Yeah.
So it's about bringing it out. It's about bringing it to life so that your priorities are visibly seen through your actions, through your plans. And so that's what intentionality is all about. That's what we're going to be looking at today. Matt or Frank, do you guys have anything to add on to that before we hop into our activities? Yeah.
I'll add on when I do my activity. So Frank, go ahead.
Okay.
I 100% agree with how you shared about that intentionality. And I think it's important that we don't get so busy with life that we miss that opportunity to be intentional, right? Especially in leadership, the success and failure rises and falls with us. So it's important that we take that moment to be intentional about whatever, whether it's making my calendar, whether it's setting time away from my family, whether it's whatever, it doesn't matter what it is. So truly planning to do things on purpose, I think, is like the perfect definition of intentionality for sure.
So Joel, Stephanie, you guys have your cameras on, and so we're going to force you to also participate.
Intentionally force you.
Yeah, we're intentional about getting our audience to participate in the discussion. So Joel, I saw you come off mic first. So what do you think of when you think of intentionality?
I think Frank just touched on this, right? Like ensuring that you're making time and putting the time aside to do those things that are your priorities, right? Like what matters most in your world. Side note, kind of funny thing I've started doing intentionally is time blocking. Time blocking, I've heard people say it forever and ever, and I always thought it was a myth. And I'm like, fine, I'll try it. It made all the difference in the world. And I not only include business things in that, but my Google Calendar that ties in both business and personal, I time block everything. So now everything is allocated to its proper time. So nothing gets missed. And as cliche as that sounds, it's been such a game changer.
That's
I
awesome.
love that. I love that. I just want to reflect on that just for a second, Joel, because I have a client who says, am I supposed to put my personal stuff on my calendar? I'm like, absolutely. If you want it to happen, you put it on your calendar.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Stephanie, how about you?
Hi, guys. I would say a very similar aspect that being intentional means making time, not just assuming it will happen, hoping it will happen. From an HR and culture perspective, I always talk about how culture is not by accident. Culture in a team, culture in a property has to be intentional. It has to be nurtured, built into, fed into, and pruned to keep it in line with where you want it to be. A lot of teams, maybe it comes naturally, or they have a leader that makes it look easy, so they think they're not putting a lot of.
Oh, Stephanie, you froze up a bit there.
But Stephanie or Joel or Tony, whoever can hear us, be careful if your signal is not good, because I froze once on a call with Nathan and Frank, and they posted a picture of me online, and it looked like I was sleeping.
Yeah, so Frank and I were like super smiley, and then Matt looked like zombied out.
Yeah. Thank you for that note, Stephanie. Tony, what about you? What about you and intentionality?
I have intentionally tried to be intentional. You know what? Maybe it's better just to stay with the group. How do you survive, and how do you continue to be intentional when you're short key managers and you're short support in what you do? Because I'm actually running into this right now. Absolutely. Like, I can't keep up with everything that I have to do because I'm doing the job of about 3 people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's really tough. I want to be intentional. I love the idea of, I think, was time blocking everything. I love that. I've actually started doing that in some ways personal, but it's like, man, how do you get that way when your world is cinder blocks on your shoulders and back and head? So,
yeah. Well, Tony, it's a great question. And I think, Nathan, if it's all right, let's go ahead and jump into our exercise, because I think, Tony, this might give you some perspective on that. And it really goes back to what Nathan said about the intentionality starting with ourselves, so it is shown out to others. And so I've done this activity with a number of different groups. And just to give you a little context, again, I think the intentionality has to start with ourselves. So, Tony, as you're talking about all these other things and all those pressures that are on you, when you think about how you're dealing with those, the impact that you're having on those is also an intentional act. So, as you are thinking about how you are being influenced, or people are impacting you, you also have the ability to impact them. But sometimes it takes us putting ourselves in the right mindset to do that. I know you and I, Tony, have had that conversation in the past. But here's the activity that I'd like to do, and this is going to take some participation from everybody. The first thing I'm going to actually ask you to do is to close your eyes. So if you're multitasking and doing something else, you're going to have to let your fingers do the walk in here for a second. So I'm going to ask everybody to go ahead and close your eyes. So as we think about being intentional, and we think about what that means to us, what that looks like, what that feels like, I want you to start to feel like, or I want you to start to think about a time in your life when you have felt like you were incredibly powerful. I want you to think about a time when you felt like you were firing on all cylinders, when everything was going well and there was nothing that you felt could stand in your way. Kind of the opposite of what Tony's talking about, right? So those times when everything was just going in the right direction and nothing could take you off course. Now, this could be a personal thing. This could be a professional situation, whatever that situation might be. You're in that moment and you can feel what it feels like. So I want you to kind of zoom in and think about what that feels like and what's around you and what's happening. So first of all, are there things that you can see? Are there things that you're specifically doing? Are you doing something on your own, or are you doing something as a group? Are you fixing something? Are you building something? Are you using your mind to do something? Are you using your hands? What is this activity? What is this thing you're doing that is making you feel like you're all powerful and that you are unstoppable? And then I want you to zoom in a little bit more, and I want you to look more specifically at what's around you. You've thought about what you're doing a little bit. You've thought about kind of the environment. If there are people around you, can you see who they are? Or is it just that you're surrounded by people? Are you by yourself? Is it something where because you are by yourself that you're feeling kind of all powerful? And then I want you to zoom in one more time. So you've kind of seen the people around you. You thought a little bit about the environment. Now I want you to feel the feels of why this feels so good. Is it those people around you? Is it the task that you're able to do? Is it because of the different things that are going through your mind and the fact that this is something that maybe you love to do, or maybe this is something that you feel a higher calling to do. It's purpose driven. Maybe it's because other people are really going to see the value in what you do. Okay, so you've got a good internal vision about what this situation is. And now I'd like everybody to go ahead and open your eyes. Open your eyes. So thank you for taking a moment to do that. And I'd love to hear what that vision was, what that feeling was, what that situation was that you were feeling really unstoppable. Who'd like to share first? And we're getting it for the audience as well, not just Frank and Nathan. Go ahead, Joel.
Matt, it's funny. I love when you guys go through these exercises because they're things I never even consider. And when we go through them, I'm like, I didn't even think of that. So to make sure that I was on course, I did it in 2 instances. And surprisingly, it was instances, they were both business related, right? And the one thing that I'll tell you, in my instances, I was surrounded by teams of people. And what's really funny is I wouldn't guess that. I would have guessed if somebody just asked me the question and be like, I was alone and I was doing this. But I was surrounded by groups of people, and it was twofold, right? Like why I felt this worked is because I felt that my voice was heard, even though frankly, in both instances, I was, in a leadership position. But I also felt that the people that were members of the team had active dialogue and felt that their contributions mattered too. I'll be the first person to say, like, hey, we can't know everything. So multiple minds are better than one. So I used to like the collaborative group effort. And sitting there, the funny thing is, I feel like I'm firing on all cylinders when the team is firing on all cylinders and all members are contributing. So it's just a remarkable exercise. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Joel. I really appreciate that. Tony, what about you?
It's similar. And Matt, you know me. I thought back to a certain role I was in, but I did the same thing that he just did. Was I went back to a second time, and it was 20 something years ago, and a different frontline leadership role as well. And it kind of goes back to what we talked about before. Was I could feel that I was having such an impact, and I was intentional, and I was doing that because I was free to do that, because I was able and encouraged and supplied the tools to do that. So yeah, I mean, those were great moments in my mind history, process. So yeah.
Love it. Thank you for sharing that, Tony. Nathan or Frank, how about you guys?
Frank, you kick us off.
So my mind went into probably 7 different areas. But the one that sticks out the most is faith is a very big part of my life. I serve at my church. I'm a licensed minister, and I'm also the director of outreach. And we do events 4 times a year. We actually have one upcoming this next Sunday on the 26th. It's our fall festival. And one of the instances that
very high stress situations and like revolving around a keynote delivery or revolving around a main stage production where multiple speakers are supposed to be coming in and out during like an all up sales address in front of a giant company. And being backstage and being around people who are carrying the stress of the show, we'll call it, or the performance, or the what's going on stage. They're carrying that weight on their shoulder. And the person ahead has like gone too long, or they've gone too short. And I've been in that situation multiple times where I'm backstage and somebody turns to me and says, like, they went over or they're too short. Can you, whatever the case may be? And just to be able to say in a calm way, absolutely, no problem. And to take that weight off of their shoulders, them feeling helpless, and then me saying, like, I will do whatever you need to do, and don't worry, I'm not stressed out by it. So I'm not going to put that burden on you. I'll take the burden off of you, and I'll go out there and I'll get it done in the way that will be most helpful, whether it's, taking up a little bit more time, reducing the amount of time that I'm going to speak, or in some situations it was, hey, can you actually all of a sudden go out and make announcements that you weren't planning on making? Like, can you fill the role of MC now? And I'm like, got the mic, no problem, I'll do it. And so to bring zero stress to a situation, but by not just out of personality, but out of preparedness of a skill, being able to remove stress from a situation. And, I think that that's not special to me. All of us have different skills and abilities where we can step into a situation where we don't feel the stress because we are prepared for that moment. And we can step in with our expertise and remove stress from others who feel as though things are spiraling out of control. And so with intentionality, we can step in and we can bring that help. And so those are the moments where, to put it in Matt's words, where I felt most powerful, because I've been able to use the preparation I've had till this point and plug it in where it's needed.
Absolutely. And I think one of the things that always comes to my mind as we talk about intentionality and that feeling is when we bring this back to, okay, now what do we do with this? If we have the understanding of what got us to that feeling and what made us feel that way, we can intentionally create the environment that helps us feel that way, right? And that's where I wanted to kind of tie this back to intentionality. So, Tony, when you're thinking about how do you keep up when you have all those managers that are gone, thinking back to when was Tony the best Tony? And again, I know we've had this conversation. When was Tony the best Tony? And what can you do, even if it's a tiny little thing, tiny little baby step that you can take to intentionally get back to that? Now, we're never going to be able to completely influence and impact the people around us. We're never going to control them in a way that they were going to do what we want them to do. But of course, we can be intentional about how we approach those situations. So that's where I think we take this activity and we take this opportunity is to look at what can we intentionally do to make ourselves feel that way more often. So if we go back to Joel's situation, like putting yourself in the position of being around a lot of people and making other people feel successful, that helps you feel successful, right?
Yeah.
And so that is, to me, where we take this in terms of intentionality. And that's going to be different for everybody. But whatever it takes to help you feel that way, you put it on paper. You write it down. You time block it. This is what helps me feel that way. And then you can intentionally build the life that you're trying to build.
Thank you so much, Matt, for that awesome activity. Thank you for leading us through that and, deep diving us into that. So just a couple more minutes on thinking about what do you guys conclude about intentionality after doing that exercise? After seeing yourself in a positive environment and capable of taking on challenges, how do you see that as being helpful in your practice of being intentional?
I just think it's important for us always to not get too busy to be intentional. There's so much that rides on the shoulders of leadership, like even Tony sharing, I'm doing the job of three people right now. You can just imagine that that's probably real close to a nightmare, but you have to take that time and say, yes, I'm having to carry a lot right now, but how can I intentionally position myself to where I am able to give my best? I'm able to get the best from the small team that I do have, and that I can influence leadership to help fill these positions so I don't drop a ball, somewhere. So, and leadership is busy. I get it, but I don't want us to get too busy where we kind of lose that essence of being intentional.
Well, that's a powerful statement, Frank. And attached to Matt's exercise, it makes me think of this idea of when we feel that we have no time, that we're burdened, it's almost like we feel as though we are powerless. And then Matt's activity, though, gives us some power back. It
Yeah.
helps us to boost our confidence. It puts us into a place of, I know I can accomplish hard things. And I don't know if I shared this last time. There's a study that looks at when I'm speaking for conferences and things like that, I speak on the power of leading with kindness, and I reference a study often that looks at the question of what causes us stress at work. Like, what about our jobs are so bad that we're just like, I quit or I can't do this anymore. And the study found that workload had nothing to do with it. Like, workload does not have negative stress attached to it. What they found, though, was job control has all of the negative stress attached to it. And the difference between workload and job control is marathon runners have a giant workload, but they also have entirely like job control because they're the ones who are putting themselves into that position. They're making the decision on what time they get up. They're making the decision on how hard they push themselves. They're making the decisions on their diet. They're doing it themselves. They're in control of that. And they'll take on absurdly insane workloads in order to run marathons. But lack of job control is what pummels us. It's what weakens us. It's what actually they found in the study that we are 2.5 times as likely to develop heart disease if we're in a position with no job control. That means we're told no all the time, or we aren't given any opportunity for education or growth, and so we just feel like we're stuck. And every problem that hits us, we can't do anything about it. And so to get out of that place of powerlessness and get into a place of, I have power, I can prioritize, and no matter how much is on my plate, I can at least get around the idea of accomplishing some things so I feel better about the day, and accomplishing things that I prioritize so that I can get into that intentionality headspace. So with that, let's move over into our next section of the program, which is our innovation section. And so, Frank, you're going to be leading that, and you're going to help us approach this in a new way. We always like to say, sometimes innovation makes us think like, oh, we're going to bring technology into the mix. Maybe, maybe not. It's all about trying something new. Innovating is taking a new approach to something so that we can get out of where we're stuck and into where we want to be. And so, Frank, over to you for this activity.
So this was a setup, and I had no idea that Matt was going to take us through that activity because it directly ties into what our innovative activity is going to be today. So I want you guys to take some time, and you have to write for this, and you can type it on your phone if you have it. But this is what I want you to do, and I'm going to tell you where we're going after. I want you to think about, and I don't want you to necessarily do it fast. I want you to be intentional. I want you to think about the 3 words, just 3 words that you would use to describe your leadership style, your leadership perspective, your leadership outlook, whatever leadership is to you. I want you to think about those 3 words and I want you to write them down. And I want those words to be able to be put into a dictionary next to your face. My face, these words. I want you to think about that. Take some time, and I want you to write those 3 words down.
Frank, even for somebody who talks about leadership every day, all day, this was a hard exercise.
I know. Because I was stuck for a while. I was like,
Yeah, the first 2 words for me came pretty easy, and that 3rd word, I think I might have made up a word to try and get it.
Okay, so now there's 2 things that we're going to do with this, and the first one we're going to do it now. I want you to reflect on these 3 words, and I want you to get a leader in your mind that you feel like exemplifies 1, 2, or these 3 words. I want you to think about that leader, and I want you to send them a text message right now in our meeting. Hey, I'm at this leadership meeting, and these words came to mind, and they made me think about you. You are ... And let's send that right now. I want you to be intentional about sending that message right now. And I'm doing it as well. Awesome. So now that everybody is done, before we get into the sharing of the words, I want to kind of give you the why behind the reason for this exercise, and then I want to get into sharing the words. Sometimes when you are in leadership and you're thinking about your leadership style, the leadership styles of the people that you are leading, the people that you are working with, the people you're working for, again, we get busy. We have personal life, we have work life. We're trying to engage in that balance that sometimes we do not take that time to be intentional about sharing with them. Hey, these words made me think of you, and I want to thank you for your leadership. I'll never forget the first time I heard Nathan talk live, and he shared a story about his family going to an amusement park and then, having to rebook tickets. And the lady on the phone was like, you're going to do this, and having to, she was intentional in that moment about letting him know this is what you need to do. And then he made sure he told her how much he appreciated her help in that moment and how much that impacted his life, So I think it's important that when we are in leadership, we have to stop and take that moment and let people know how we feel, especially leaders, because we have to fill their cups up because we're givers, right? We give every day, all day, without even thinking about it. So we want to make sure that we're filling those people cups back up. So I have this literally on my calendar. Every day I select somebody and I say, who do I want to appreciate today? What am I thinking about today? Who drops in my mind? Who drops in my spirit? And I just randomly send them a text message. Hey, you came to my mind. I want to thank you for whatever. These words made me think about you. So thank you for being a great example of these words. So just an activity that I wanted you guys to get used to being intentional about being able to define your leadership perspective, and then being intentional about seeing that in others and then sharing that information with them. All right. So that was the purpose of that activity. Thank you guys for playing along. But I would love for us to share what your 3 words are. What were your 3 words that you came up with?
Matt, you go first.
I'll go first. Okay, so mine were support, fire, and I'll explain that in a minute, and consistency. Okay, so fire to me is kind of equates to enthusiasm because I had a football coach who would call out the plays and he would always say, 52 fire. And that's how we would say it. And that's always stuck with me. And that coach was super influential. He was super impactful, very enthusiastic. And that's one of the words that popped to mind. So I take it as enthusiasm, but support, fire, and consistency.
Joel, what do you have?
Can't believe you called me out like that. I had optimistic, thoughtful, and authentic. And Frank, I'm stealing something from you. You and I were joking during the last meeting, right? That sometimes we come to the table almost like hyper engaged and like, well, it can't be that bad. And I really look and go, in any opportunity, good, bad, or indifferent. Worst case scenario, we learn something, and we're better prepared going forward. So I think I am optimistic to a fault. So I always try to bring that in, because hopefully it can bring levity even to the darkest of situations. And we know that we're confronted with those as leaders. Thoughtful, because the one thing I want to do is make sure that everybody has a voice that's heard at the table and that everybody feels that there's value add there. So I think thoughtful is important. And then finally, authentic. And I say authentic because I don't feel that sugarcoating helps anybody. And I think if you use the proper tone, you can convey, some very difficult messages, saying it with the proper tone. So although you might not like what I'm telling you, you realize that I'm not doing it from a state of emotion. I'm doing it from a factual basis. So those are the 3 that I would choose.
Excellent.
Stephanie, I'll speak up for her. She shared in the chat here, empathetic, open-minded, and decisive. Stephanie, did you want to come on your mic and share a little more on that?
If my connection is stable and I can get through it, I would love to share. So the empathetic and open-minded is just something that makes me feel very accepted and very part of the team, or whatever I was doing at the time. And someone who is decisive is like the opposite of me. I'm relatively indecisive. So when I have a leader or someone on the team that can compliment me like that, it means turns us into a powerhouse and we can really move forward.
Tony?
Well, I really thought of 4 words because I already knew what these were as soon as you said this, because this is what I've described my leadership style is a 4P perspective. Everything I look at is through 4 Ps: professional, proactive, passionate, and positive. And then that's how I've always approached my leadership. But one of the big things that I can tell by looking at my 4 Ps is that I am currently in a place where I am not practicing 3 of my 4. And maybe this is part of your segment, I don't know, coming up to introspect on these words that we have, but literally failing at 3 of the 4 right now. So, but those have always been, Matt knows me well. I'm a pretty passionate person, try to be proactive, always professional. And sometimes the positivity is not always depending on the situation, but I that's what I've always lived by. So
thanks for sharing, Tony. The words I had for myself are encourager, challenger, and then the one I made up is peer pressure liberator. So helping people to realize you don't have to go with the flow on everything. Be true to yourself, look inward and know what your values are and steer your ship rightly according to that, so that you don't get sucked into, old timey phrases of keeping up with the Joneses, or especially in this day and age where comparison is like the thief of joy.
Yeah.
And so, and to recognize too, especially in your leadership journey, when you see that there's only like a couple of slots at the top and think, I need to get there, and lo and behold, somebody else made it there instead of me, that doesn't, you don't have to feel chained down by disappointment in that, but to recognize like not everyone can win, not everyone can get that spot. It's limiting. And so to recognize like, hey, be true to yourself. And so with that, I want to take us into our quick quote. So this is the inspiration part of the show. Oh, Frank, you had something to add there.
Yeah, before we go into that
Okay,
that
yeah.
part, I wanted to really quickly for Tony, I wanted to let you know that you said something that I think was very impactful to me. You said these are the 4 P's that I live by, and I realized that I'm failing at 3 of the 4. Number one, there is power in failing, right? I think when you have something that you have say that this is kind of how I move through life, these are the 4 things that I have, and 3 of those you're kind of not meeting right now. I think the power in that is you get to be intentional about reinvigorating that why. I think you have to dig deep again, and you have to go back, and maybe that exercise that Matt took us through, and go back to the place when those 4 P's were happening and they were firing on all cylinders. Get back to that and reignite yourself so that you can fire on those cylinders, because these are not where you knew right away. When I announced activity, you had them almost immediately, which means that these are a part of your makeup. So if you feel like you're failing on those 3 right now, there is power in that. As hard as it is, as difficult and challenging, as frustrating as it is, I challenge you to dig deep and go back into your why. And I think if you go back into your why, you'll be able to find out where the shift happened and begin to start working on that shift, because you may find that maybe your piece changed a little bit, or maybe you need to realign with your why. So I just wanted to share that with you, because we all go through times and seasons like that, but I just wanted to share that with you. And then my 3 words were impactful, influential, and hyper. You all know me. I'm on 10 all the time. Even at 6 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock in the evening, I'm just always hyper. I love to have that energy because it's naturally who I am. And then impactful, influential. It is my goal that every time I meet somebody, to make an impact or help influence them in a way that they had never received before. So those was my words. I just wanted to share that.
Yeah, that's powerful. And in all of this discussion, hearing all of these words too, it's all about like how we show up to what we're doing, right? You take a look at Stephanie's words: empathetic, open-minded, decisive. Those aren't things that just exist on their own. Like, hey, for the next hour, I'm going into this room and I'm just going to be empathetic. No, it's that in the scenarios you're in the tasks that you're doing, in the day-to-day stuff that you are brought into, it's, do you clothe yourself in those characteristics? And so, Tony, to go back to you saying like you feel like you've lost some of them, how can you habit stack? Like in your day-to-day activities, how can you bring some of those back in? Before this session started, Frank and Matt and I were talking about how nice it is when the weather gets cool to put a hoodie on. And we have different definitions of what cool weather is. Frank's putting a hoodie on at like 79 degrees. But the idea of what can you be clothed in? How can you take those things into the challenges that you're facing, into the tasks at hand, into the people that you're working with in that moment? And so We'll jump right in. I know I'm looking at the clock and I want to make sure that we get to our final section, which is just we call it kind of the leadership fast pass or the quick quote. And so it's the inspiration part of the show. And we truly, the three of us, when we were putting together Impact Nation, we truly believe that all leaders need to be readers and feeders. And so that you are constantly working on your growth. And so the quote that I bring today is find out who you are and do it on purpose. So Frank and Matt, quick take. What do you got for me? Find out who you are and do it on purpose.
I love that because it really encapsulates so many things that we've been talking about today. It goes back to Tony's 4Ps, find out who you are. What is it? Dolly Parton, I think, talks about, knowing who you, there you go. You got Dolly right there. You know, how important.
That's her quote. Find out who you are and do it on purpose. You got it.
Yeah, we got it.
I love it.
But I think once you, and this is a lifelong journey to really find out who you are, figure out who you are, figure out what you stand for as a human being, and what you will tolerate, what you want to bring to the world. I think that's super important. And then it really is about being intentional with now bringing that to the world. And whether that means, in a very practical sense, time blocking so that you can do it, or, having that thought in your mind of this is how I want to show up when you go to someplace. We all know that IAPA is coming up, right? An opportunity for us to see lots of different people and kind of be who we are and show up authentically. It's a great opportunity to be able to communicate to people who we are through our actions and through our intentionality.
I love this quote, and it just takes me back to the thing that's on my mirror. Dear Frank, you don't need permission to be yourself. Knowing and understanding and having a true understanding of who you are is a superpower. And do it on purpose. And I walk this quote out every single day. Most of the time to my success, sometimes to my detriment, but it is what it is. I am who I am, and I always do it on purpose. So I love it.
And I'll share just a quick thought as well as we kind of wrap up the show for today. The whole first part of that, find out who you are, is not to be taken lightly.
Yeah.
It's meant to be an absolute exercise. Like in every challenge of that word, like exercise, where you work your muscles to learn more about yourself and what you're capable of. And I always encourage people that you find out way more about yourself when you put yourself to work in service of others. You discover so much more of your strengths if you show up to help someone else. You discover so much more about what you didn't even know what you were capable of from an emotional depth if you pour out support for someone else. And so to not think that finding out who you are is just like, hey, take thousands of dollars and go on a worldwide trip and, try foods in different places and be exposed to different things and, catch a play and go to a theme park and just serve yourself all of this good stuff until you discover. You don't learn about yourself by just discovering the things out there that you like or the entertainment that pleases you. You learn about yourself and what you're capable of by challenging yourself in service to others. And every leader needs to be about that good work. It's the arrogant, egotistical leaders that are all about themselves that end up, they may have an awesome product, they may push out an awesome result numerically, but when you look at the people beneath them, they're all miserable. They all hate their life in working for that person, right? And so making sure that we are intentional about that. Let's close out. just a couple of announcements about Impact Nation. We will be having an episode 3. We will be posting on social media to announce when that will be. We'll also get an email out to everyone if you sign up at jointheimpactnation.com and get your email on that email list. Also, these are always recorded, and we're going to be posting these shows afterwards. So if the time doesn't totally work for you, still sign up, still get registered so that you can get notified also of the recording afterwards. And Matt and Frank both reference IAPA. We're going to be there. And on Monday night, we want to have an in-person get-together. And so if you're interested in that, let us know. We'll make sure that we share an invite out to that as well. Frank and Matt, anything to add?
Go be impactful and be intentional.
And have an incredible weekend.
And we'll look forward to seeing you guys on episode 3. Thanks so much.
Impact Nation. Impact Nation.